Senator Inhofe will be followed by Senator Whitehouse. Senator Inhofe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And before you start my clock, I'm going to experiment with something that I haven't tried before. I have two questions, but the first question has four parts. So rather than put Ms. Johnson in a position of having to write down fast, I'm going to ask my staff to hand her the written copy of those four questions, which I will read now. First of all, Ms. Johnson, won't denial of this...
The senator's time has expired.
I didn't do that to you.
All right, go ahead.
All right. Denial of the small refinery exemptions, of which we have two in Oklahoma, ultimately drive gas prices up? And does the data support an assertion that small refinery exemptions lower blending and biofuels? And please describe your understanding of the EPA's stakeholder engagement with refiners regarding the proposed rule, and is there data to support the claim that EPA's denial of hardship small refineries would contribute to closure of American refineries and lost jobs? Now, anything that's already been answered, you go ahead and run over that fast, all right?
Thank you, Senator Inhofe, and thank you for the list of questions. So with respect to your first question of whether denial of small refinery exemptions will drive compliance costs higher and gas prices higher, it is a certainty. If EPA publishes its proposed denial, the parties holding the RINs that small refineries need for compliance will be in a position to demand exorbitant prices because small refiners will be captive buyers on the eve of the compliance deadlines, multiple compliance deadlines on top of one another because EPA has been so delayed in its rulemaking. This is assuming that RINs are available at all. So my small refineries do not have the RINs that they need for compliance. They are physically unavailable. No more 2019s are available for compliance. No more 2020s are available for compliance because, as EPA described, parties' uncertainty about what the ultimate volumes will be are holding on to their excess RINs. So it is a recipe for crushing small refineries. It is a recipe for escalating RIN prices. They will get much worse if EPA moves forward with its proposal. Gas prices will increase with RIN prices for parties that can partially or fully pass through their costs, for example, large integrated oil companies and large exempt retailer chains, and small refineries will be forced to violate the law without hardship relief, shut down, curtail, or go bankrupt. Those are the Department of Energy's predictions. With respect to your second question, Senator, does the data support the assertion that small refinery exemptions lower blending of biofuels? I want to answer that in two parts. First of all, EPA's current proposal relates to compliance years 2019, 2020, and 2021. It is impossible to blend any more fuel in those years. Those years have already closed. So no biofuel blend rate will go down. And essentially, the other proof is that there's a lot of discussion about the 2016 to 2018 timeframe when the prior administration granted more hardship relief than it had historically. During the period of time when small refinery hardship increased, so did the blend rate. And the simple reason is small refineries cannot meaningfully impact the blend rate. The blending is done downstream. The only question is whether or not small refineries are going to make massive wealth transfer to the large integrated oil companies and large exempt blenders that hold the RINs needed for compliance. Your third question was to describe stakeholder engagement with refiners regarding the proposed rule. I can say this: small refiners were blindsided by EPA's proposal to retroactively deny all 2019 to 21 petitions years after their statutory deadline to issue their decisions had passed. EPA checked a box. They met with us on August 25th of 2021. They shared no substance about their plans to issue retroactive mass adjudications and denials for small refineries. The proposal matches entirely, instead, the asks of the biofuel industry. which seems to have had meaningful engagement with EPA. EPA also seems to have engaged with the USDA. And by the way, Congress decided that the appropriate consultation was with the Department of Energy, not Ag. And the Department of Energy, as I've said, has determined that EPA's plan to deny hardship relief will result in the shutdown and closure of refineries. Your last question, Senator, was whether there is data to support the claim that EPA's denial would contribute to the closure of American refineries and lost jobs. And I won't repeat what I've said previously, but essentially, a number of small refineries do not have the RINs they need for compliance, and if they are denied relief, they will be captive buyers in a market with escalating RIN prices, and EPA has acknowledged that there was a shortcoming in the production of RINs for the 2019 compliance year, and that the RINs that are available in the market are not in the hands of small refineries. So small refineries will necessarily violate the Clean Air Act because they will not have the ability to get the RINs that they need for compliance, which will then force them to decide between spending money on RINs, if they have it, shutting down, and or going into bankruptcy. Senator, I hope I've answered each of your questions.
Excellent.
And you've done it in just the right amount of time. Gentleman's time is expired. Go ahead, just briefly.
I do have one last
Very briefly.
thing for Mr. Polaresi, and that is there anything, I know you talked about this and you answered the question and addressed this also, but are there anything about, in terms of the risks associated with an entirely electric fleet that you didn't adequately cover?
Yes, right.
Just very briefly, if you would, please. Very briefly in response.
The biggest problem is we are energy independent now. In order to move to an electric fleet, we have to move to a series of critical materials and minerals, on which we will be highly dependent. Some of them sourced from countries that are not necessarily friendly to the United States. And if I may just correct one, this one question that I thought is very interesting. It's very important to understand that Oregon has the 5th highest gasoline prices in the country. So it may be lower than some other adjoining states, but gasoline prices are quite high in Oregon.
All right, thank you. All right.